China rehearses control around Taiwan. Drills test pressure without war. Justice Mission 2025 signals intent. Power projection short of invasion. Blockade tactics without battle.
Hello, I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching another episode of Explained with me. On this episode of Explained, we look at China's most extensive military exercises around Taiwan in years, a sweeping show of force that has raised tensions across the region and drawn close attention from global powers. Known as Justice Mission 2025, the drills involved coordinated operations by China's Army, Navy, Air Force, and rocket units, signaling not just military strength, but a calculated strategic message to Taiwan, the United States, and Japan. Over 2 days, Chinese forces surrounded Taiwan from multiple directions. On the second day alone, the People's Liberation Army conducted 10 continuous hours of live-fire exercises. Rockets were launched into surrounding waters, warships maneuvered near key maritime routes, and fighter jets and bombers flew coordinated missions across several zones. According to Chinese military officials, the drills were designed to test combat readiness, joint operations, and the ability to control access to the island. What made Justice Mission 2025 particularly significant was its geographic scope. Exercise zones were established to the north, southwest, southeast, and east of Taiwan, covering a larger area than any previous drills since 2022. Military analysts noted that some of these zones came dangerously close to Taiwan's territorial waters, while others interfered with international air and shipping routes. This was not just a demonstration of firepower, but a rehearsal of an alleged containment. At the heart of the exercise was a simulated blockade of Chinese forces, practiced sealing off Taiwan's major ports, including Keelung in the north and Kaohsiung in the south. Such a scenario would cut Taiwan off from vital energy supplies, food imports, and global trade routes. Analysts say this reflects a shift in China's strategy away from immediate invasion scenarios and towards testing the feasibility of isolating the island without direct combat. Taiwan's responded by placing its military and Coast Guard on high alert. The Defense Ministry has reported detecting 130 Chinese aircraft and 14 naval vessels. Within a 24-hour period, 90 of those aircrafts entered Taiwan's air defense identification zone, an early warning buffer that extends beyond national airspace. Fighter jets, naval ships, and coastal missile systems were deployed to monitor the situation. The drills also had real-world civilian impact. Taiwan canceled dozens of domestic flights and warned that hundreds of international flights could be delayed due to rerouting. Maritime traffic was closely monitored, and emergency response centers were activated across military and Coast Guard agencies, while no direct confrontation occurred. The disruption underscores how military activity around Taiwan can quickly spill into global commerce. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te has condemned the exercises, accusing Beijing of undermining regional stability through military intimidation. In a public statement, he said Taiwan would not escalate tensions or provoke disputes, but would never retreat in the face of threats. He also emphasized that Taipei remained in close coordination with democratic partners and allied countries to ensure regional security. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te has said that the island is determined to defend its sovereignty and boost its defense in the face of China's increasing expansion. Let's listen into what the Taiwanese president has shared.
新年的第一天，我也要再次呼吁，面对中国严峻的军事野心，台湾没有时间等待，更没有时间内耗。我们可以对许多议题有不同的看法，但没有强韧的国防，就不会有国家。 更不会有我们彼此争辩的空间。这应该是要不分党派的全民共识，期盼朝野携手合作，顺利让重要的国防预算赶紧通。所以，投资国防就等于在投资和平。这一次中国的军演，我们可以看得到，解放军演习的科目里面有特别针对台湾新增的战力作为假想敌来演练，就可以看得出来，我们这一次军演军购的项目对台湾的国防安全是必要的。那这一笔国防预算对台湾向国际社会展现守护国家决心、维护区域和平发展也是必要的。
Meanwhile, China has accused Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te of spreading falsehoods after his New Year address vowing to defend the island's sovereignty. China, however, framed the drills as both justified and necessary. Defense Ministry spokesperson has said that Justice Mission 2025 was aimed at deterring Taiwan's independence forces and external interference. Beijing has long argued that military pressure is a legitimate response to what it sees as a separatist activity in Taiwan, as well as growing foreign involvement in this issue. The timing of the drills is crucial. They took place just 11 days after the United States approved an arms sale worth over $11 billion to Taiwan, the largest such package between Washington and Taipei to date. The deal includes advanced missile systems, artillery, and rocket launchers. Beijing has repeatedly warned that such sales crosses red lines and undermine regional stability. US President Donald Trump has responded to the drills by downplaying their significance. Speaking to reporters, Trump has said China has conducted naval exercises in the region for decades and that the latest maneuvers did not concern him. He added that he has a strong relationship with Chinese President Xi Jinping and that Beijing had not communicated any specific intentions regarding the drills. Trump's remarks reflect a delicate balancing act. While the US continues to sharply supply weapons to Taiwan under the Taiwan Relations Act, it also seeks to avoid open confrontation with China. Analysts say Trump's restrained public response may be linked to ongoing trade negotiations and efforts to maintain a fragile truce in US-China economic relations. Beyond Taiwan and the United States, Japan has emerged as a key factor in the latest tensions. Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi has recently suggested that a Chinese invasion of Taiwan could threaten Japan's national security and potentially trigger a military response. Those comments drew sharp criticism from Beijing. Chinese officials and analysts believe part of Justice Mission 2025 was aimed at Tokyo by simulating large-scale containment and denial operations. The PLA appeared to be signaling that external military intervention, particularly by Japan, would be difficult and costly. The drills served as a reminder that any Taiwan contingency would not remain a local conflict. China's messaging extended beyond military movements. State media and propaganda channels and many channels released images and videos portraying Taiwan being struck by symbolic hammers under slogans such as Shield of Justice and Breaking Limits, dispelling delusions. These visuals reinforced Beijing's narrative that the exercises were lawful, defensive, and inevitable. At the same time, Chinese leaders were careful not to signal any immediate escalation. Beijing announced the completion of the drills while stating that its forces would remain on high alert. Taiwanese officials later confirmed that Chinese ships and aircraft were gradually moving away from the island, although emergency response mechanisms remained active. Experts say this calibrated approach reflects China's broader strategy. The goal is not to trigger war, but to normalize a higher level of military pressure around Taiwan. By repeatedly conducting large-scale drills, China gradually shifts expectations, making extraordinary military activity appear routine. The exercises also send a message to Taiwan's domestic audience. President Lai Ching-te faces internal political pressure and a divided legislature. Analysts argue that Beijing is using military pressure to test public resolve and amplify political uncertainty within Taiwan without crossing the threshold into open conflict. So what does Justice Mission 2025 ultimately tells us? It shows that China is refining its ability to surround, isolate, and pressure Taiwan using coordinated joint forces. It highlights Beijing's growing confidence in using military tools as political signals, and it underscores how Taiwan has become a focal point not just of cross-strait tensions, but of wider regional power competition. For now, the drills are over, but the message remains. China is rehearsing control, not just signaling intent. Taiwan is preparing for pressure, not just defense. And the region is watching closely, knowing that what happens around Taiwan affects far more than just one island. That is all we have time for this episode of Explained. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.